2016 was one of the most violent years in Chicago history. 762 homicides, more than New York and L.A. combined. 4,000 shootings, an increase of 1,100. As killings and shootings rose, police activity, it fell. And some say that's due to what's been described nationwide as the Ferguson effect. Chicago had its own videotape showing a white officer's controversial shooting of black teen Laquan McDonald. And for over a year, the Justice Department has been investigating the Chicago PD's use of force. Now consider this. In August of 2015, cops stopped and questioned over 49,000 people. A year later, those stops dropped to less than 9,000. That's down 80%. At the same time, arrests were off by a third. Joining me now, a former Chicago police officer. He had 18 years on the force, was wounded in action, suffered PTSD. Brian Warner now is the chair of the organization known as Chicago Police Survivors. So, Brian, I was watching on my sofa outside of Philadelphia. My takeaway was Chicago cops feel under siege, and they're taking it down a notch. Is that a fair assessment?
It's not. I'll have to clarify what you saw in 60 Minutes. I wasn't given the opportunity to finish my sentence. The police department was reeling, if you look back at 2016, what was happening. You just talked about the Laquan McDonald video. And locally, our mayor and elected officials were blaming us and telling about a code of silence. Nationally, you had presidential candidates vilifying the police for political gain. More importantly, you had officers gunned down, protecting the same citizens protesting against them. And then you had law enforcement being ambushed and shot just because of the uniform they wear. So emotionally, that trauma coming from all these directions, emotional and physical trauma coming from so many directions, had a dramatic effect on the police officers. I don't care what profession you're in. If you have so much trauma and that much energy being forced on you, you're going to have to step back, pause, and reevaluate. There was a reflection period, and there was some officers who stepped back and realized or reevaluated, but to go into a fetal position like our mayor suggested, that never happened. The true reason why the crime is, or not why the crime has spiked, one of the major factors the crime has spiked is the ACLU report that's been forced on the police department. That report is a 2-page report that used to be a single index card, and it's hindering and affecting the way officers police. It slows them down and slows down the inability to stop more people. With all that said, the good men and women of Chicago Police Department, who I'm embarrassed that the people are putting the brunt of the blame on them, took over 6,000 guns off the streets last year. If you think about the ripple effect that they've had, how many lives did that save? How much senseless violence did that prevent by taking those 6,000 guns off the street? But people don't want to mention that. They only want to talk about, oh, the police are laying down, and this is why crime has spiked. That's certainly not why crime has spiked.
I'm glad that you're clearing the air, and I hear you. It sounds like part of the key part of your interview got left on the floor over at 60 Minutes. So I want you to finish your sentences.
It did.
What I was unsettled about.
Thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Here's what I was unsettled about. I was unsettled by the McDonald case, and we can run the video again. Everybody has seen it. But the perception that it left me with was that the Chicago PD didn't like the fact that a police officer has been charged in connection with this 17-year-old, the shooting death of the 17-year-old. He was shot 16 times, and the video seems to show him moving away. Let me just finish my sentence, and then you can have the final word.
I apologize.
And I said to myself, well, geez, I would hope that the police officer's response would be, hey, we want something like that to play itself out in court, because if a guy got shot 16 times who wasn't posing a danger to cops, then maybe that cop was out of line. So that's what left me unsettled. You get the final word.
Okay, the reason the police department, the frontline patrolman is upset about this is because it's a political animal. You never heard the police department say, don't release the video. It's awful to look at, but it's a lawful situation that the policeman took. And when the facts play out in court, we're going to see that. What happened was it was politicized once again by our mayor. The only two people who did not want the video released were the two people running for elected office, the state's attorney, Anita Alvarez, and the mayor, Rahm Emanuel. Those were the two people who sat on that video because they had the most to lose by it. If the police department would have put that video out, explained the facts, and let people know truly what happened there that day, when those facts come out in court, I think a lot of people are going to be have insight that they don't have right now and have a different opinion of how police do their job each and every day.
Is there anything else that you came here to CNN today to make sure you get off your chest that you won't given the opportunity to say on 60 Minutes on the first of the year?
I would just ask that when you just made several inflammatory or not inflammatory, but people are looking at situations directly after a police shooting. People are taking to the streets and protesting. 10 minutes after the shooting in, I believe it was Baltimore or maybe New Orleans, these people ran to the streets, or Milwaukee exactly. It was Milwaukee. They go outside, they start tipping with cars, they're throwing rocks at the police. They don't even have the facts. They don't know if the officer's black, they don't know if the offender's black, they don't know nothing. They just assume that a police officer shot somebody, so that must mean that they did something wrong. Think of it, police officers are human beings. We're fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters. We're people in your community who are just going to work and trying to do the right thing. When you continually vilify the police and keep bashing them, the end result is that you're going to have crime spike because you keep
I'm fine with everything you just said. Here's my final word. I'm fine with everything you just said, just so you also agree the bad cops need to get weeded out, and those who exceed
100%.
their authority using deadly force, they need to be prosecuted. That's it.
100%. Okay? And it said if you know how the gentleman is trained, how we're trained in Chicago, and if you know the state statute when you can use deadly force, when those facts come out in court, then we'll have different situation. Thank you for the opportunity.
Brian Warner, thank you for.
Please pray for our law enforcement.
Will do. Thank you for being here. Up next, my mailing address says Pennsylvania, but the election results were a wake-up that I actually reside in a bubble. I have plenty of company on both sides of the aisle. Can we do anything about that?